decisions, but we can talk.
All right.
But one's coming late. That's
Good evening. So, I'd like to call to order the Royal Oaks Park Recreation and Senior Services Advisory Board for Thursday, November 3rd, 2022 for 7 p.m. I realize that we do not have a quorum, but we are going to go ahead and we are expecting someone to show up late. So we are going to go ahead and start with public comment and those things, and hopefully he'll show up. So if we have decisions to be made later in the agenda, we will go ahead and make those at that time. If not, we will just have an open meeting. So we cannot approve the minutes, so we will skip that and come back to it. So go ahead and start with city commission comments.
Yeah, I think the only thing I really wanted to talk about was...
Turn your mic on.
Oh, that's right. So am I on camera? Or?
Yes, all the above.
So one thing I really wanted to talk about was the ARPA, the money we got from the federal government, the American Relief Plan Act. We have a meeting for that on, somebody help me out, Judy, June the 29th? Yeah. It's like a worker exchange. At the end of this month, that the City Commission will be having a special meeting, work session to talk about how, after the community engagement, to get back together and talk about those funds and start to make some decisions, finally. So,
what's the date?
The 29th in the evening.
Okay. And that's an actual city commission meeting that's just going to be a working session?
It's right. Like we can take action. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really all I was going to say. I mean, probably you've seen that there's the work is happening at the Centennial Commons, and that's preparation for the ice rink. So their city staff is working closely with the Veterans Events Committee to make sure that the space is cleared and prepared for those events that are coming up in the next week. Bless you.
Excuse me.
So that's all.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Macy. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Commissioner Macy? All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. Just like any other public meeting, we hold public comment. You have 3 minutes. I need you to state your name and address, and then there's a timer on the thing. The
podium.
The podium. The thingy that's sitting there in the middle of the room. Super official. Yes, Pat. Go ahead and step up to the podium and make sure your mic is on, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Patrick McGee, 4524 Elmhurst Avenue. I wanted to start. So I met with an individual named Noah, Noah or Nora, probably Noah, who I believe works for John. I just want to let you guys know, the trick-or-treating at Normandy Oaks, what a huge success. I had a chance to talk to Noah. He told me that he was a big part of it. He did a fabulous job. That event was a huge success. My kids loved it. Grandparents loved it. My extended family loved it. I'd like to see that get even bigger. The first year it was small, it got bigger. I think that was a great event. So, John, please make sure Noah gets this feedback that he did a great job. And a great movie selection too there. So, the meat and potatoes of what I'm here is the master plan that came up. So I want to focus on page 45 of their packet and just call some attention to you guys that you can ask them to maybe include in it. So if you look through the amenities, and this is Elks Park, because Elks and Normandy Oaks are the parks I'm most interested in. And some of the items that...
47. You were talking about Elks Park. It's a different page on our packet. So.
Oh,
go ahead.
It says 45 on there.
Yep, we're good.
So, well, that's a new item. Okay. Correct their page numbers. There are items that they didn't include that I think are really critical that need to be listed in the amenities, because not every park is the same. So in their amenities, they got ball field, multi-purpose field, tennis courts, basketball courts, play structure, swing set, volleyball court. I don't see parking lot. In their picture, there's a giant parking lot. Not all the parks have a parking lot. I think they should include a parking lot. Also, one of the reasons I go there with my kids, it has a sandbox. I don't see sandbox listed in their document for parks. That's a big thing, right? It's another service that Aaron has to provide, pouring sand into these parks. 2, bathrooms. Normandy Oaks has a nice bathroom. That's not listed in their packet. Like that could be listed as an amenity. We spent a lot of money. For Centennial Commons, there's a brand new step-down transformer being installed. Like electrical, like is there water hookup? Is there electrical hookup? Those types of things not included in their packet, right? That's a huge amount of money that was spent for the parks that's not being included. And then some nitty-gritty details. It lists like a soccer field, right? Part of Normandy Oaks, we had a whole discussion on full-size soccer courts. We should specify whether it's a full-size soccer court or a small soccer field. Sorry, soccer field. And then let's see some of the other stuff. And then like this is going to be more of a challenge, but in the play structure, playground section of the amenities, maybe a catalog of the equipment, if it's 0 to 2, 5 to 12, over 12, does it have slides, is it a jungle gym? Those kind of things where if you got this packet and you were looking to say, what park should I go to? Or, you know, what, from your guys' standpoint, hey, what is this park lacking? Like a play structure is pretty a generic term and it encompasses too much. I think it needs to be drilled down. And very last thing, since Aaron is here, Elks Park's light over the play structure. It's been 2 years of me hounding Corey trying to get this light replaced. So hopefully John and Aaron can get this light replaced that was damaged during the Normandy Oaks construction. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. That's fine. Thank you. Anyone else? Of course. Janice, please use the mic. Thank you.
I'm impressed. I think that plan is phenomenal. It's the pictures, the breakdown of the amenities, everything. I'm hoping it's still just a draft and things that Pat mentioned will be added, spelling corrections, you know, that type of thing. But I'd like to make a few suggestions. The parks are put in alphabetical order, and I don't understand the reason for that. Because it's such a fantastic plan, I think it would be a great resource for the community, and I'm sure it's going to be downloadable from the city website. So I would prefer to see it put in geographical area, so from the north end of the town moving towards the south, instead of alphabetical. Or if you're going to put it in alphabetical, instead of having the little map, just make it easier to find where the parks are in your particular area, the community. And something else that was posted on Facebook is a person asked, where's the best parks for toddlers? The one that's close to me isn't really good for my child. It's small, and I think that should be another amenity that's in there to signify which parks are good for toddlers or a specific age group. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Any other public comment this evening? All right, then I'm officially closing public comment. Thank you, everyone who came. Moving on to the next order of business. First thing up is Bicycle Day.
Yes, so we have Tim here who had met with a couple weeks ago to go over the idea of Bicycle Day in Royal Oak that he mentioned at our October Parks and Rec meeting, and we had a very good discussion. What you have here in your packet is kind of something that I had put together throughout our conversations, and then I'll let Tim come up here and kind of go through the events a little bit further. I think there's going to be some differences from what is shown here, but nonetheless it's very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Timothy Perry, P-A-R-E, 2310 Hawkins Avenue, 48073. I'm here to ask the city to sponsor what I call Bicycle Day Royal Oak. There are very few cycling events in the Tri-County area due to safety issues on busy roads, length of the course, municipal resources required, high cost, and crowding at starting lines that create problems for miles. My unique solution is what is called a slow roll. However, this one does not have a defined start or finish or a defined starting time. It's not a race, no clocks, no mile markers. Participants can start anywhere on the course and finish at the exact same spot, and it's possible because the course is designed as a loop. The course is marked with arrows and words written with flower. Yes, flower. Very easy and obvious to follow, and the flower will remain for a few days and then fade away. There's 3 sections to the course. The central loop is 8 miles long, located between Woodward and Crooks, and 12 and 13 mile roads, but not on any of them. 100% residential, past lovely homes on tree-lined streets. It winds back and forth to get the maximum distance within the smallest area. There are so few cars traveling throughout the neighborhood, I usually only see 3 or 4 cars, amazingly. And because they live in the area, they drive very slow and cautious when they see me riding. Last Sunday, I saw 2 cars. 2 cars. The perfect place for a bike ride. Lovely street, no cars. To ensure even less traffic, I suggest a Sunday morning start no earlier than 9 a.m. and no later than noon, and suggest a finishing time no later than 1 p.m. Heading south is an optional 3-mile connected loop that crosses 12 Mile at the traffic light at Vencetta near the railroad tracks, onto curved streets, larger homes and bigger lots, another lovely neighborhood. It was so quiet last Sunday, I passed 1 car. Perfect. The course returns to the central loop at the same spot on Vencetta, but I should note that the cars traveling 40 miles an hour on 12 Mile Road are not the same residential drivers that are in the neighborhood. On the north side is a similar optional 3-mile loop that crosses 13 Mile, both ways at the traffic light at Benjamin, tours the area east of the tracks and goes to Normandy Oaks Park, tours the nature area on the southeast corner, goes once around the path, past the restrooms, Normandy Village, and eventually returns back to the central loop. 14 miles in total that goes under 6 railroad bridges. Takes me 1 hour and 45 minutes, so participants can do 3 miles, 8 miles, 11, 14, or if that's not enough, you can do it twice. But it's a completely different concept in cycling, so when I explain it to my friends, they're often very confused and ask questions like, well, what time does it start? Well, you can start any time in the morning on that day. And where do we start? Well, you can start anywhere on the course because you finish at the exact same spot. You can drive down Vencetta, Northwood, Benjamin, Webster, and you'll find a sign that shows you where the course starts. Stop and start right there. But I prefer that people bicycle to the area as opposed to driving to the area. And where do we go? Bicycle Royal Oak is a residential area that tours residential streets void of fast-moving cars. So wherever you start, that's where you finish. From previous discussions with the police, they had no concerns at all, but if approved here, I'd like to discuss it with them again, and I hope that the police bicycle team could attend. A bonus in this scenario is that participants are spread out over 4 hours and 14 miles, so the capacity of this event is almost unlimited. I would ask that the Parks Department publish the time, date, and the details and a map both online and in your magazine, and purchase some lawn signs to help identify the course and alert neighbors of bicycle crossing. Once we lock in the event, I'd like to promote it to schools nearby. I also plan to contact a number of charities, groups like the Scouts, and hopefully they will participate. They could meet at some neighborhood park or restaurant outside the course and arrive by bike. Myself as the course coordinator and a few other volunteers will mark the course the day before, put out signs, pick them up, and hopefully Parks and some volunteers can promote the event through social media. If the Parks Department wishes to have a bicycle event, as far as I see it, this unique concept is the perfect solution. Simple to put on, low cost, suitable for all ages and abilities, and traveling on the safest roads in Royal Oak. I believe that Bicycle Day Royal Oak will be successful and attract people looking for a family-friendly activity that's free. And that's basically what it is. But John and I have, I think we have some agreements on the course and things like that, but we have some other ideas or things that are, I'm not sure of. I believe you want to do a start point.
Yes, as our conversation went, I like the event. I think it needs to be a little bit more organized as far as, you know, having I guess a designated start point and not necessarily a designated end point, but just a generic start point where bikers can get together, and then also kind of stagnate the start times, you know. 9 a.m., 9:05, 9:10. That way there's not so much congestion, but it gives enough space between the slow rollers. You know, we are going to need some volunteers to, you know, perhaps keep everyone safe and maybe slow some traffic down, car and bike-wise. And having sort of like an organized, you know, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with organized times and whatnot, and at least the volunteers know when they need to be there, when they can leave, because I'd hate for in an open event or open setting, you know, volunteers to be there at 10 and then everyone leaves at 12 to get some lunch and then there's an accident. Particularly if, you know, that's how I just kind of want to see it. I think it's a great idea, and it can still be that slow roll. It can still kind of have, you know, all the concepts that you were throwing out there. I just, you know, my only 2 cents is, you know, we kind of just fine tune it a little bit, have some start times, get some registrations. That way people can sign the waivers. Because if we are promoting this as a city event, it is important that we do have participants sign the waivers. And then we'll put porta johns out along the pathway, so, you know, during 12 miles when nature calls, you go, and so forth. So
I have a question, John. He says it's 14 with 8, 3, and 3, and you're saying it's 12. So, like, what is the difference in the routes?
But I mean, the route is the route. It could be 12, it could be 14, it could
Okay.
be 8. And really, the meat and potatoes of it is.
You want more start and stop,
Just
more
more-
structure, and to be able to sign waivers. Is the
Correct.
two big
Yes.
talking points. Do you want this in late May, early June? Is there a reason for the timing?
I didn't want to do it when the splash pad was on, even though when I go by it's very fun to see that, but I didn't want to interfere with with them on Sunday morning.
Okay.
But I'm pretty flexible about that. I wanted to have it at a time where the high school, they weren't in exams or something or other.
Sure.
I don't know when that is.
Okay.
You know, I figured this group would know better. But I have some comments about having a start and a finish line, because for me that creates all kinds of problems. Parking will be a nightmare. I've put on hundreds of fun runs, and so when you get 500 people in a group, you know, that's a pretty big crowd to start a bicycle event. I mean, a running event. When you got bicycles, it's like twice as bad. They take up so much room. And I don't want everybody to be getting together. COVID is still active. You know, there's 1,700 daily reported cases and 22 deaths daily. So being everybody together, I just don't want to do that. And you're asking volunteers to arrive at 7 o'clock in the morning and stay for 6 hours. I think that's going to be really hard. I've dealt with volunteers a lot, and I'm not sure what they're really going to do other than you know, trying to find out if there's people who haven't signed a waiver. And if you get people that arrive there at 8:30 in the morning and they're ready to bike and we're going to make them wait 45 minutes or an hour, I just don't think they'll do that. They'll just go. You're going to need a PA for crowd control. Perhaps you're going to need barricades. You're going to need starting line banners. And groups that I was planning to talk to, you know, kids like at the Shrine Elementary, I was hoping we'd get them to do just the 3 miles over on the south side of 12 Mile. You know, but, you know, if we're limited by the number of people, are we limiting the number of people that can attend? Well, then maybe they could do it and start over there. You know, it's the same as Northwood Elementary, they had a bike event, and I think they had, I'm not sure, I seen them drive down the street.
100.
How many?
Couple hundred.
They probably even had more than that, but it looked like a big crowd. But what I'm getting at is if there's, so we get kids like that to participate, but we don't want to have them have to go all the way over to the park when they can do their 8 miles without crossing any busy road at all. Because I look at this as more like, as I mentioned last time, it's more like the Woodward Cruise, that, the city sponsors it. Big investment in police and resources create huge traffic jams, but we don't have any of them to sign a waiver to participate in the Woodward Cruise. So I'm not sure why we have cyclists are required to sign a waiver when they're just doing the same thing that the cars do, just driving on the road in a responsible manner. I'm not sure that we really need that. So my plan is no start line. It solves the problem of parking, confusion at the starting time, crowd control, volunteers, equipment, barricades, registration. We don't want people to drive to the start. We want them to bike to any location on the course. And starting at different times in different places makes the crowd thin out on the course. If we have, say, 300 kids at Northwood School start at the exact same time as the kids or the people in the park, they will never even see each other, because they're 7 miles apart. So they'll travel on one part and they'll travel on the other. And we could have at 11 o'clock, we could have another 500 at the park and another 500 at the school, because they don't, they're over 4 hours and they just don't interact. I think there's lots and lots of room for it. And but I think that's, doing that is simpler and less costly, and I think it'll work.
John, does the city really sponsor the Woodward Dream Cruise?
The city has an event during the Woodward Dream Cruise, and as a member of the Woodward Dream Cruise, Inc., but Woodward is a state highway. So regardless if the city were to have an event at Memorial Park, we can't close down Woodward within the city limits. It's a state highway. So whether we have an event there or not, police and Alderman is going to be there.
Okay. Trying to understand the difference.
And
Do we need a waiver? Is that something like, do the city lawyers say we need to do that? We want to protect the city. We don't want to get sued.
well, with it being as your request to be put on a city Insight Facebook page, website, it kind of ties into a city-sponsored event. Whereas if it wasn't necessarily structured and someone did get hurt, there's some gray area there of, who could be liable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an attorney, but I just know, and putting on some other events and whatnot when people sign up, and the registration, I don't want it to scare you. It would be a free registration, but it would kind of be like our trick-or-treating event. Our registration is free, but it gives us an idea of how many people are going to show up. And then the times listed on here are just an example that we just quickly put together. But I think it would be necessary to have a waiver, especially if you have all of these people coming together. And I understand that they may not see each other because one group could be here, one group could be here, one group, but they are going through the streets of Royal Oak, and the city's sponsoring the event.
Yeah.
The maps that we have gone over, have some crossings around 12 and 13 mile brief crossings, and
Sure.
The maps are not necessarily finalized, but those do cause some hazards with it, and I do think having the volunteers to kind of be an extra eye out on the road when bikers are biking, to answer any sort of questions,
Yeah.
maybe slow some bikers down, slow some traffic down, just kind of be out there to, mitigate any sort of outstanding risk.
I think it's important to have volunteers out on the course to drive around just to keep an eye on things and possibly pick up any garbage. But I don't think that volunteers should be getting involved with any type of traffic And as I mentioned, I don't think that there's going to be traffic. I don't want them going out on 12 Mile Road and stopping
No,
cars.
well, they
or
wouldn't be out
anything.
there stopping cars, but, they'd be out there, saying, hey, let's slow down, there's some heavy traffic up here, or, hey, watch out, guys, there's, a car kind of veering into the lane, just kind of being, like I said, an extra eye. That I would resort to the police department to be the traffic control.
I'm always thinking of the what of, what if you get, 10, 16-year-old kids come up from the high school and they're ready to go and their parents didn't sign the waiver. Do we say, no, you can't go?
So-
Do we have people who,
Time out. I think if we're going to do the waiver, I think that would be part of the online registration. So we're not asking them to sign waivers at the start line, correct?
Correct, but typically with any event, we would have extras on hand
Sure.
in case that
Yeah, I
someone
get it.
did show up, we would be ready.
So that's the reason that we want to have a designated start place.
Correct.
Okay.
why do we want a designated start place?
So that they can sign, like if I didn't register online and I show up, I still need to sign a waiver to participate.
It's
Yeah, I would-
also
I
a
would
little
hope
bit
that you
more
would-
organized.
I get it.
Yeah.
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 Go ahead. I think Aaron has some comments.
Yeah, actually, so you already kind of alluded to it. First of all, I think this is great, and I appreciate all your work on this, and we'll get this thing going one way or the other. Well, but I think to answer your question about the difference, I think there's just a little bit of concern on account of people cruising on Woodward is sort of one thing, but here we are sort of encouraging people to do things that they might not be that familiar or comfortable with. And so there's that bit, but to the point of making it simpler for providing a registration, I think that is the point where we can at least disclaim this, that, and we can find the appropriate terminology. I think what it will require is just a review from our attorney, what's the best way that we can indemnify ourselves without overburdening the process. So somewhere in the middle of that, I think we'll get it. But I was trying to answer your question mostly about how we see the difference, I guess.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, and my concern is that what if we get 2,000 people that sign up and they all go to the park at the same time at 9 o'clock?
Okay.
We got a serious problem. But if there's no start, there's no finish, there's no cost, you can start at Vincetta, you can start at 11 o'clock, you can start at 9 o'clock at the park, or 9 o'clock on Webster at one of the schools. It just changes the whole perspective, and it's an untraditional type of event. People don't usually do this type of thing. If you had at Kensington, we're all going to go to Kensington, and we're going to all go around the lake on the course. But you can go at any time you want. They wouldn't have people sign a waiver for that if we're just encouraging them to come out and ride your bike on that course. And I think it's sort of the same that I don't think we really need a waiver, and I don't want to have a starting line.
Yep,
But you
so-
guys run the show, so it's probably your call. I
Yes.
guess.
So at this point, I think we're going to discuss it. If we have questions, we'll certainly ask you.
Okay.
But I think we need to discuss it as a group up here now. Certainly appreciate that. It sounds like the starting line is a deal breaker for you.
No. If you're going to have a starting line, I'm still going to go out and mark the course and be a
Okay.
volunteer and all that. I want it to be successful. I just know that to solve all the problems of everything that you could think of, from volunteers to traffic to crowded things, if you don't have a start line, then you're all set.
Okay.
You're all set. And not at a specific 9 o'clock. You could say, oh, we'd like you to come at 9 o'clock to the park, or you come at 10 o'clock, or you come at 11 o'clock. But you need to spread it out just in case we have that huge crowd that we didn't anticipate.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. All right, bringing it back to our group. So certainly thank you, Mr. Perry, for all your insight, and John, appreciate the summary here. What does anyone on this group think? Comments, questions, thoughts?
Let me give Joe's comments.
We do have a member that wasn't able to attend today who actually was instrumental in organizing the Northwood event. I'm not calling it slow roll because it could be trademarked. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble with the city of Detroit because we're using some term we shouldn't. So I'm just going to call it the Northwood Bike Event. And he has provided us an email with some comments. So I'd like Commissioner Macy to go ahead and provide that information for us for discussion.
Okay, I'm sure he's watching right now, so I'll tell me if I get it wrong. So
Text us.
he's excited about the event. He thinks the bicycle event will be really successful. And I mean, as was noted, that the Northwood event was very popular and was several hundred people, and it was just Northwood. But because of his experience with that, two major comments. I think one is that he does feel that it needs some sort of structure. He's also done slow rolls in Detroit where it's been like a ton of people, and having that the structure of the timing and the police and the closing down the roads as necessary is sort of, it sounds like it's not the same as the vision that you had, but given that it could be a really, really popular event here, I mean, this could be really huge, having it be just open does open us up to a lot of those concerns. So I mean, I think the idea that we wouldn't have to worry about those things if we just made it anybody can start at any time from any point doesn't work. Is if it's so crowded that they're all at the same point at the same time and we don't have any of that structure in place. And he also wanted to say something about the timing, because Northwood, which had their slow roll already, or had one, did they have one in the fall?
No.
Well, he said they did one, but they're going to do another one in the spring, and it's the same timeline, May. So he was thinking about, he was wondering about a different time. I understand the concern about Normandy Oaks, but I wonder if maybe we just would keep the splash pad closed for a couple of hours that morning in order to make it not too busy at that time. And that could be working anyways. And then it could also be a stopping place, I suppose. But it makes me think of maybe we could do it later in the year, like the school year ends around June 17th for Royal Oak students, and so maybe something in the weeks following that in the summer might be nice. Sunday morning.
Northwood is looking to do theirs in late May.
Right, which is the same time this is set up
Yes.
for. Okay.
Sounds like a good time to go biking, apparently. Everybody wants to go biking in the spring, so love that. Think we got it. We got a thumbs up that we got it right.
Okay.
Okay, we got a thumbs up that we're doing okay.
Said all the things.
Detroit slow roll is in the summer, yes. I've participated in slow roll myself. Definitely need a helmet. All right. I'm gonna bring it back to the script. We've gotten Joe's comments. We even got a thumbs up from Joe in our text messaging. So he's watching, so ask the questions.
So my concern is that I've already biked 5 miles to get to Normandy Oaks. Otherwise, I've got to throw my bike on the back of my car and take it there. And I like the idea of just being able to jump on and do it in my neighborhood on the route that's specified, and back, without. Because for me, 14 miles, that's a long ways. And if I make it 19 miles, that's a long ways.
Yeah. I get it.
Miles.
What?
You do 8 miles in the shortcut.
Yeah.
To turn that down to 5.
Yeah.
They're so close in there, even if you had enough, you're only a half a mile from a major road. That's what gives it flexibility to do, 3 miles, 8 miles, 11 miles, 14 miles.
Right.
Include everybody.
And I would like to make a comment that it wouldn't be necessarily like the Tour de France where you have to complete the route. If you start at Normandy and you're like, I can only go 4 miles, and you decide to peel off.
I expect you to be there with like water bottles and flags on the route, John. Come on.
I expect there to be a leader bike.
Yes, exactly. And a jersey, special jersey color at the end.
No, I will not be the pace bike. So.
All right.
Tour de Royal Oak. This is totally what we're going to call it.
Oh, we're calling it Tour de Royal Oak. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I think my only concern...
Please turn your mic on.
It is on.
Okay.
I think my only concern would be if there's like a bunch or group of people riding together and they're not being as careful with traffic, either intersecting the course or along the course. I don't know. It's just a thought. Where, if they're in a group, they feel safer and then they don't stop and then maybe a car is coming and they don't realize. So I know we talked a little bit about having people out there, but I don't know.
Right. Vince, you look like you have something you want to say.
Yeah, I came in a little late, so sorry. Has there been a map yet of the course? I haven't seen one yet. And then if there was maybe some break stations, because like he said, 12 miles is a pretty long time, maybe just like a tent with some shade and some water, I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay,
So, sorry. Can I go?
of course.
So I'm taking into consideration what Timothy said, and also Michael's point just now is, I wonder if we could have 2 start points, like at sort of opposite ends of this mysterious map that I don't know what it looks like. But I mean, I think he explained it to us pretty well last time. And then that could, like, they could start at the, we could still have starting times, but then they could be going around the loop, and I wonder if that might be a way to kind of split the baby for this. I do understand the issue that if we're gonna have 500 people show up at 9 o'clock, that seems like a lot.
Well, as far as like just the
Like,
open race?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, even with even if they have 5 minutes stagger time, they're still supposed to check in at the same time. You don't get to check in at 9.
If we had that amount, we would change our start times. This is just an example of how
Okay.
we would stagger.
Because it's a big example that has 500 people in it.
So I think, let's break this down. So I think everyone is all in. I think we have some conversation around timing, just so that we're not conflicting with the Northwood event. I think we need to make a decision around if we're going to follow the request to have a start time, and it could be that we do have 2 starting points to help break up some of the bulk of it. Like, that seems to be one decision point that we need to, or at least one place of contention, right? No starting points or starting point. And then, and then, what was the other thing? I can't remember. Yeah.
So I'll say, like, yes, although this is the kind of thing that we just toss back to city staff. So essentially, we need to decide if we're going to advise that we do this. And if so, and the staff's going to listen to what we're saying about what we like about the boundaries, and then they bring us back a proposal, and we say or no, right? So in other words, we don't have to make these hard decisions.
Okay, good. We don't have to make hard decisions. I love that. Only on pavilions.
Only on pavilions.
Only on pavilions.
And I got your comments, 2 different starts points.
Okay.
So like I said,
And if it works, great, and if not,
yeah, it's we got this event, we'll get it rolling.
I think we're all in agreement. We agree, the 5 of us are in agreement that we want to pursue this and come to a workable solution that makes it work for us. So we'll look forward to hearing more probably in
I
January.
don't know if do we have to make a motion to direct staff? I'm not even sure if I can do that. No, all right.
John's got us.
He's got it.
John's got us covered.
It's gonna happen.
And you'll
It's gonna
you'll
happen.
continue to
We're gonna
talk
make
to-
it happen, and we're gonna make it work, and it's gonna be super successful, and it's not gonna interfere with Northwood, Joe, since you're watching. Okay.
Northwood.
I'm gonna just step out of our business for a second and go back to approval of the minutes now that we have a quorum. So, just to get that out of the way so we don't forget.
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Macy moved to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
I'll second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor to approve the minutes as written for October 6, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The approval of the minutes has been approved. Now, back to the master plan draft. Dun da da da. I hand it over to our friends at McKenna to please walk us through. Aaron, please release the mic so that we can hear them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us back. So up on the screen and in front of you is an updated draft of the Parks Plan. Our intention here today is to do a very quick page turn.
Okay.
It's 150 pages, so we're not going to dwell on many of them, but we'll stop wherever you'd like and we'll discuss wherever you'd like. Our intention was just to sort of hit a couple high points of things that were not there when we saw you last, and just sort of explain where we are, where we're going next, and really leave time for any questions or discussion items you have, if that's all right.
Perfect. Thank you. I was really hoping we go like line by line, all 150 pages, but I'll live with my disappointment.
You can stop us at any time.
Thanks. Evening, board members. Laura Haw. So just on page 6, to kind of orient ourselves in the process, this spread highlights the key planning steps that we've taken thus far and are going to take in order to finish the project. So the dark blue boxes represent phase 1, and that continues on to page 7 as well. But that's really the description of the community in chapter 2, the identification of the administrative structure in chapter 3, the inventory of all 51 parks, the existing conditions in chapter 4, and then the public engagement that was done, which is detailed in chapter 6. And then the lighter blue boxes for steps 5 and 6, that's really phase 2, and that's been the synthesis and preparation of the draft plan, which is before you tonight. We are at the very end of this process right now. We're about to launch into the third phase, which is step 7, the orange box, which really still represents the draft plan as it goes through the 30-day public review period and a public hearing with the City Commission, and then ultimately for adoption. So this is still a draft plan, it's still under review, there's more public engagement to come as we go into that next phase.
When do you plan on posting it for public comment?
We would like to release it November 11th, so that would be next Friday. And do so in the newspaper and also social media. And we've discussed with the department doing flyers with a QR code as well, that we can advertise at many different municipal facilities.
Great, thank you. Are you hosting any events? No? I'm good, I'm just asking.
No, it was part early on. We did.
Yeah, I was there. I got that, Aaron, thanks. I just wondered if we were hosting more. Okay.
Okay, so unless anyone has any questions, I've skipped to page 32. And one of the things that actually was not in the electronic copy, but you have sitting in front of you and is up on the screen, was a setup of, before we go into all these park pages, just some explanatory text about what is represented there and how to use this section of the document. So there's some text here about what we did, about the classifications of amenities that you see on the parks pages, and then legends for all of the diagrammatic scales and things that are on each parks page. So that's 33 has the amenities conditions, and I've heard that a couple times already, that it would be really nice if it was explained how to use this, and we acknowledge that it's sort of a miss sending in your packets, but it's here now and in this printed copy, including page 35 is just how to read these park summaries. Since we talked to you last, we've redesigned the park summaries a little bit. For the administration's request, we did add the conditions of all the amenities. We added more public engagement. I think that direct quotes and just sort of trying to encapsulate in the descriptions of the parks what the sentiment was for each park in all the engagement that we did. And so this is where we are at with the parks pages. We also, when we were with you last month, we had originally ordered the parks in a little bit of a wonky way, sorted by the size of them and sorted by the classification that they're given, that we are using to evaluate them against national standard provisions, things like that. We thought the alphabetical order was probably the best user-friendly way to be able to sort through a paper document. I hear the comment about being able to orient yourself, and I guess there's maybe some other things we can do about a reference map that references where the pages are or something. But it just we thought that the alphabetical order would be maybe the easiest way in a paper document to be able to find things. Yes.
So I like the overall map idea, but I just want to note that it does have on each page an overall map of the city that shows where the park is.
Right.
So there it does say a little bit, but I like the idea of having, like we did at the engagement, having an overall map view with the pictures.
Sure. Okay. And so I think I mentioned just sort of, again, we picked the iconic quotes from things that we got. If there's not a quote on the page, it's because they weren't really quotable, and in that case we made an effort to make sure that the description captured that sentiment, as I had mentioned. Just our amenities inventory is like 60 or 70 lines long, so earlier we heard about more detail in the presentation, and I think we are amenable to any direction or enhancing that a little bit. I guess the thing is, what we were really trying to do is abstract and bring down to the important things for the technical analysis, and we're trying to have it both ways, user-friendly and presenting the technical analysis. But the data does exist about where the tot lot play structures are and things like that. I think there are maybe other options afterwards to present that information. We'll be sending over, it'll be in the appendix, we'll be sending over the GIS files to the city. So there's maybe some other things we can do there. We added this action item button, the green button. It's not keyed to the pages yet, but the idea is that in the electronic version, if you have an electronic version of this, you can click on that button and go directly to the back of the plan where the specific park action plans are.
So just a quick note on that.
Yes.
The accessibility index that you have in the back, it doesn't match up with the description on the slides.
These
So
numbers?
as an example, Normandy Oaks we have as a 3, and in the back I think you have it as a 4. And that's just one example. I found other ones that they don't align.
Okay. I guess the other thing that I didn't say at the beginning is that the biggest thing that we're going to be doing between now and then is a very thorough copy edit. And ideas that would have happened before you were reading it, so you didn't have to copy edit for us. But we acknowledge that there are some misspellings and a few things like that in there. We're trying to concentrate on having the content in to the extent possible. But thank you for that.
I have a question about the demographic breakdown. So you have 20 to 65 years all lumped into one thing, and that's like 2/3 of the population. Can we break that out a little more? I think it's on page 18.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I think the answer is yes. We can break that down. So the reason that there's more detail is because we talk specifically, and when you're talking about parks planning, you are talking a lot about young people and old people. But the point is taken that that's sort of a overgeneralization maybe for adults. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because you assume like 20-year-olds to 65-year-olds are using the parks in similar fashions, but
No, but
like they're not doing the same thing
it's
that
implied
kids are
in the way,
doing,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know. It was just a thought.
Yep, thanks for that. Okay,
So
with that,
while while you're flipping through those, Memorial Park, you're right there.
Yeah.
So Memorial Park is the home of the Royal Oak Memorial for war veterans. And it's also the future home for the Michigan World War II Memorial. So in the profile, you're going to want to probably say something to that effect.
Noted, thank you.
Has a couple dinosaur. What? Yes.
Another thing I noticed was in the key recommendations on page 12, there's a couple of strategic actions. One is prioritize and invest more significantly in bicycle infrastructure and parks, and one is adopt a policy of bicycle parking as part of any new capital project. I don't know if that's like kind of the same thing, or if we should just make that into one strategic action.
Yeah, so that maybe is a victim of editing or over editing to summarize it for the front. The idea is that there's a policy of more bike infrastructure in every single park, and then in certain parks that are adjacent to things like schools or marked bike routes, that's where you would concentrate on the enhanced infrastructure. So it is sort of all part of the same thing, and we'll look at how it's phrased.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Erin, did you see that? Another dog park. I know, a pool
So we
and
can
a dog
have
park.
double the complaining?
Yeah.
Spread it out across the city.
Right.
So, are you presenting or?
We were going to keep going, but we can, okay.
All right, then chapter 5 details the analysis and findings, which are based upon the standards of the National Recreation and Parks Association as a benchmark for communities of similar size, which Royal Oak is grouped into the 500 or 50,000 to 100,000 population size. So we did talk a little bit about this at the October meeting. We've just updated these numbers in the table to correct a couple things in the inventory. And one of the things that you'll notice in the table is the second from the last row regarding golf courses. The National Recreation and Parks Association's benchmark is for an 18-hole golf course. So that's why in that far left column, it's stated as such. Only 29% of municipalities provide the full 18-hole golf course. And we note that, or we more specifically noted now that Royal Oak provides for the 9-hole golf course. But even so, with your population size, it's not anticipated or recommended that you would have a full 18-hole golf course. So you're largely still meeting that's recommended standard. The next page, which is 96, details.
Can we stay on 95 for just a second?
Sure.
So at Grant Park, there is a dished area where in the past they've done an ice rink. It doesn't have boards for like hockey and things like that, I don't know whether that's an official rink or whether that's just something that somebody does out of the good of their
No,
heart.
it was something that city staff had done a while ago. I think what this table is going to outline, and correct me if I'm wrong, are actual physical amenities,
Okay.
not
It's temporary, that was
Temporary.
temporary, yeah.
Because
Okay.
technically, we're going to have an ice rink.
Still
For 1
still
year.
temporary.
We'd like to do, we're not opposed to actually building that again, we haven't had a consistently cold winter where we can.
Well, that's the problem, unfortunately, with weather in southeast Michigan right now.
Is it really a problem?
I did not mind today, that it was 60-some degrees in
Right.
November.
Okay.
Right, then on page 96, this details the indoor recreation facilities, and similar to the outdoor, the city still offers a wide variety of of opportunities for recreation when compared to the national standards. And the following page, 98, details the accessibility rankings. Again, a ranking of 1 is the lowest ranking. The facility is not accessible. A ranking of level 5 indicates universally accessible for all users. The majority of parks are a 2 or a 3 level of accessibility. And I think that when you compare your accessibility standards today versus in your previous park plan, there has been a concerted effort to increase that accessibility. A number of park scores did go up. It's just really difficult to achieve that level 4 or 5 because all the facilities across the park must be accessible.
So this is a question for John. Why wouldn't Normandy Oaks be a 5?
Because the climber is not accessible. The slide,
Oh,
the climber, so everything in a park has to be accessible.
okay.
The accessibility of the fields as well also plays into that. There's not a dedicated route for someone to go as a spectator.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Sometimes I have problems with it either.
Is that true?
So,
They marked it a 4.
So the chapter 6, the engagement chapter, was in process, but largely there on paper last time we talked. I just want to hit on a couple things. We did sort of flesh it out, finish writing writing up all the events that we went to and everything that we learned. Laura mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning again that the orange boxes on this process chart are all the engagement we've done so far. This is a draft plan. When it goes out on the 11th, it'll be a draft plan. It'll be a draft until after the 30-day comment period and after the public hearing. So I think it's just worth repeating that the draft public comment period and the public hearing are important parts of the community engagement for this, and until it's adopted, this will remain a draft.
Just to back up a little bit, on page 103, what was the significance of including medium household income? I mean, how does that figure into this?
CDBG funds?
We had done a series of maps, a couple of which we are still trying to find places for in here. Otherwise, they'll be in an appendix, that were focused on what we were trying to do was help enable decisions about investment based on some equity factors, those being where young children are, where seniors are, and comparing certain provisions and tree cover and things like tree cover to household income is another thing we just analyzed. And so I think what you're saying is a little bit out of the narrative, but we'll tune the story up, I think, is the answer. And we were trying to sort of analyze, before we went very tactically into the parks, we were trying to zoom out a little bit and look a little bit more strategically. And even after after the plan is published, sort of have a leave behind of this analysis. So when decisions come up later about is there a way that the parks can contribute to things like tree equity, there's a reference tool for that in this plan.
Of course. I was just going to add for Michael, this is something that also when we were looking at the tree planting program, we looked at income as well, and there's like tree deserts, and they tend to be, they tend to be in areas that have that lower income. But I will say, we noticed this when we did it before, and it's true here too. Like some of the places you've marked, one of them is the high school, one of them is Beaumont, and one of them is the industrial area. So, like, yeah, there's not trees there, but there's also nothing we can do about it. So just,
Sure.
I understand that it's informative, but there's some pieces that aren't quite as informative.
Where's Beaumont? Right there?
That's Beaumont, right?
Or there? Here?
Don't make me figure out geography.
It's up
That would
where?
be
It's this one.
It's where 40
Yeah,
is, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No,
40,
48.
48.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead, that was all.
Okay. So I'm back in the public engagement chapter on page 109. These are just the quote-unquote finalized numbers for the virtual engagement, which again was pretty robust. I was disappointed that it was $7.99, so I could say over 800 comments, but nearly 800 online comments and a lot more interaction. Just the point is that the engagement was robust. We heard last time that because we were sort of focused on a couple categories to set up the analysis of the input. We heard that there were a couple strong themes missing. Those have been fleshed out here, especially in the write-up of the survey, which is here on page 116 and 117. The specific feedback we heard last time was that we didn't adequately reflect the input we got about the idea of a community pool. But that one question in the survey just clearly reflected that. So those things, I think now that it's completely written up, everything that we've heard is accurately on paper at this point. The virtual paper, as it were.
So Commissioner Macy, I know Commissioner Macy, last time I know that you had some concerns that you weren't sure how public engagement, or like some of the comments were going to be captured.
Yeah. I think they did a great job.
Okay.
Fantastic job. I mean, I don't 100% agree with some of these things. One of the points I would want to quibble on was that we think we need no tennis courts but twice as many pickleball, and the reason given for those is the same. Even though we have too many of both of them relative to our size. I don't disagree that pickleball is rising in popularity and tennis maybe is not, but I don't know. So there are some things that I thought were outsized, reflected in this, but for the most part, I thought they got pretty much everything. And
Okay.
John and Aaron couldn't scroll their way out of that pool. I'm sure they tried.
I just know that you had some concerns about how we were going to represent that. I just want to make sure they were captured.
I think they were. I mean, I
Okay,
guess I'm curious
good.
to hear what others think.
Guys, I know.
So on the pickleball courts, do we have any idea who uses them?
Oh my God.
I mean, is it limited to, is it because other communities don't have them that we have such a strain on our pickleball courts? Or, I mean, how does that work?
John, can you invite the Pickleball Association to one of our meetings and they can explain it?
There's a lot of them.
No, pickleball as a sport in general has grown.
Voted.
Don't quote me on this, but I think it's grown 60% in 2 years. So even though we do exceed the amount of pickleball courts to the NRPA standards, it still is a growing sport. It's growing in the younger age group as well. It used to be more towards an older demographic sport, but now it's becoming very popular, and it's
The
just
20 to 65-year-olds.
I think
Well,
they're
I want to say too that the leagues, they're always on them. So it's hard for just regular citizens to go play on the pickleball courts. Like I go to Troy to play pickleball because I can't get on the Royal Oak pickleball courts when I can play. So there's just not enough for just regular people who don't want to play in a league, I guess.
yeah, and I get that complaint often, and I do schedule their leagues, so Tuesdays and Thursdays and some of our leagues, but some of those players who are part of that organization or play in those leagues tend to kind of hang out outside,
They're like always
and
there.
they tend to think they kind of control the court. So
Yeah.
I had them telling people they couldn't use the porta potty.
Okay. Back to our master plan. I appreciate the pickleball court discussion. We can take that up next when we start talking about what we're going to implement and prioritize. So we'll invite the Pickleball Association then. John's very close with them. Anything else you want to bring our attention to?
Yes, we did want to go through Chapter 7. This is perhaps like the biggest talking point we hope to have with you tonight. So Chapter 7 is the Strategic Action Plan, and there are 2 plans included in the document. The first one deals with the system-wide strategic recommendations, and this is broken up into 3 different tables. So starting on page 126 in green, this is the Park and Recreation Facilities System recommendations. And this correlates to the goals and objectives in the previous chapter that are related to park and recreation facilities. And then if you go over to 2 pages over, 130, there's a blue table that corresponds to the programming goals and objectives, and similar red table, orange table on 131 related to the administrative and organization. And so we tried to classify these recommendations based on those goals and objectives that are applicable in order to make it easier for the city to explore grant opportunities with the state. They like to see how the goals and objectives of your plan support the eventual recommendations. So within those tables, for the system-wide action plan, there are some short, mid, and long-term strategies that we recommend. And these were largely influenced by the public comment that was received, as well as just some best practices, and trying to merge the recommendations of other plans into this one. So for instance, there's specific recommendations related to sustainability, to mobility, to accessibility that are representative of the efforts put forth by the SCAP plan, by the Aging in Place plan, and by the city's strategic action plan. And we're happy to talk about any of these specific system-wide actions. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions on these at this time, we can get into a more in-depth discussion about the park specific.
So I do have one. Yeah, so hold on.
Would we want to add Memorial Park to the cultural programming if they do like historical, I don't know, because that guy who came to talk to us about that was talking about having like schools come out eventually and having presentations.
I think we need to get it ground broken.
Cool.
So,
It's a 5-year plan.
I was there, they broke the
so
ground.
I don't know.
But that's a good point also.
Yeah.
Hamer Finch Wilkins is another one that we're thinking about doing some programming of that kind. Who? The new one, Hamer Finch Wilkins.
oh yeah, it's listed in
That's
here.
actually captured there, yeah.
It's captured.
Oh. All right, well, that's not where I'm looking.
Okay.
So, wait. Oh, okay. No, this is, wait, where am I? It's still in the wrong spot. Okay, so for the system-wide, I guess one concern I had is that one of the things that came out as highlighted, and appropriately so, is drainage issues in our parks. And I think that's something that is system-wide, and it's chronic, and we're not going to be able to fix it with the snap of our fingers. But it feels like the only system-wide way we're addressing that is green stormwater infrastructure. And while cross my fingers that would do it, I'm just a little skeptical. I feel like we need to have some other way that we're planning to address that, rather than that sort of slow and I don't think very effective manner of making a huge change to our system. So that was a big, to me, that's something that we talk a lot about and there needs to be more of a focus on it here.
How did these get prioritized? Based on the number of comments?
So it's partially public input.
Okay.
It is, as Laura said, some of the things that sort of organically came in the public input also had already been talked about in the sustainability plan. So on the one hand, you think, well, yeah, of course, because people have been talking about it for a while, but where there was overlap, we sort of pushed those forward as higher priorities. It's a combination of things. It's a combination of feasibility, things that were identified in the last plan that are still relevant that we tried to pull forward.
Okay. I mean, because I would say that drainage, we'll just call it drainage, is probably a higher priority for a lot of people versus a pool and recreation facility, which is listed as our #1 short-term goal.
Well, the goal, I guess, is not to develop one. It's to, that's very early in this conversation. It's to evaluate the feasibility and find a location. But your point is noted about what that looks like, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, like I appreciate that people make public comment about it, but as a person who's been on this board, I think going on 5 years now, I've heard about drainage for 5 years consistently in almost every park that we have. So like I'm not sure that was bubbled up and reflected as much as we've heard about it. We hear about it in the spring when we can't mow, and we hear about, there's different ways it shows up. So I feel like, to me, that's something I'd want to see tackled before the feasibility of a pool, but that's just me.
Sure.
So, okay. Anything else, guys? From either group?
So I don't think there's any right, so I want to make sure. Any kind of a bathroom plan for these parks? It's another thing that comes up, both people wanting permanent facilities, not wanting permanent facilities, not wanting to have the porta potties.
So the restroom conversation, I guess, we didn't put it in the strategically identified because it was fairly clearly identified in
Which park?
which parks were necessary, and then also, there's built infrastructure or places where we thought, and we thought it was supported by public input, that additional built infrastructure like pavilions would go, that sort of pointed it in certain directions already.
Okay, that's good. That answers my question. And then the other question I had was, so these candidate parks for some of these, who came up with these candidate parks? Feels like we're treading into dangerous territory here with people going to look and see if they are or not in these candidate parks.
So I think the candidate parks, that is based on the information we have and based on the input we've received, and based on our analysis, we sort of pulled up where we think it could work. I think we're not going to get to the skate park goes here in the scope of this plan. So I think there are cases to be made for all of those because they have the real estate or they have parking available or they have the ability to add parking, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did, to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Some of these seem like, as soon as some people see where it says Waterworks former storage space here, they're not going to love some of these things. But I mean, just that's true for some. There's true for a bunch of them, like the ones where they want to get rid of tennis courts or add pickleball courts. I have a feeling that by naming the parks, we're going to hear about it.
That's what public comment is for.
Yep.
So I heard public comment from 2 different residents that having a way to understand the age of the playground equipment. What are your thoughts on, just off the top of your head, of how to better incorporate that, or is it?
Not the age
that
of
was
the, not the
kind
age
of
of the
like the
thing.
reading.
Who it's geared towards.
Yeah, like the age of, like, if I'm a 0
I
to
see.
2-year-old for this playscape and 12 to 50, I don't know. John always gives us age, like when we talk about Hudson Park, I'm sure he'll tell us what age range those play structures are for.
The age structures would be a 2 to 5 or a 5 to 12.
Could we put that in maybe in the, I don't know. Do we feel like from a group, is that a recommendation? I heard from 2 people in the public comment, so.
I think Pat was talking about it being like in the amenities here to say play structure, 5 to 12.
Would that be easy to add?
I mean, it would be possible to add, yes. Is the question just about identifying it, or?
I think people want it in this as a resource. Maybe there's other ways that we can have this plan do that digitally on the websites and things like that. So it doesn't have to be in the plan, but like maybe we have a map. We create a map that people can click on to identify place, structure, ages, that it's interactive. So like I can click on it, you know, on our website or something like that. I mean, I think there's other solutions as well. What I heard is there's a desire to identify what parks have what age groups. So like if I have a 0 to 5-year-old, I'm going to go to this park versus if I have a 12-year-old, I'm going to go to this park. So maybe it's not necessarily part of this plan, but it's something that we as a board and team can think about how we could create an interactive map with it. I know that you have that inventory, so I think that would be a great asset to the city. Whether it has to be in this park plan or not, I don't necessarily think one way or the other.
For what it's worth, I would advocate not putting in there, because it is a plan more than it is
Yes.
a guide in a
Yeah.
directory specifically. So I hear you though, that there's other ways that we can make that interactive and make that guide available.
Yeah, I think that was what I took from it. Yes, I agree. I don't necessarily know if it needs to be in here, but I appreciate where Janice is going to have some way of quickly, easily interacting with a map, so that you can tell what those play structures are like, so you can figure out, make a plan for what park to attend.
And the other issue is some of them, I mean, now they're designated that way when we build them and they're new. There are some really aged structures over there where
Yeah.
staff guessing, for this age.
Sure.
It might be beyond what we can actually speak to with
Okay.
authority.
Parking for the amended, yeah.
What?
Parking for the amended, did you say that too?
Parking? Oh,
So the other thing we heard about at public comment was
yeah.
about adding parking
As
to-
an
as an
amenity?
amenity to the parks listed. Thoughts on that?
I think it would be a nice addition if we wanted to do another column in the accessibility table and note if there's parking and or an ADA, a reserved ADA space.
Oh, okay, I got you.
okay. Anything else from you guys? Have you covered your stuff?
Yes, and like I said, we're happy to answer any questions. Just one last thing in the park-specific action items.
Okay.
Those are things that, again, it's like, the sources are our analysis, previous plans, public input, conversations with staff, and the prioritization was an attempt to, for one thing, put the loudest and most urgent things first, but also to acknowledge that in some places that need a lot of investment, it's not going to all happen at once. So at least to put a sample timeline on it, and I think it's a comprehensive list of actions based on what we've heard and what we analyzed. And you'll see that there's recommendations about facilities, about sustainability, and about accessibility. So that's it, unless you have any questions, or now we're ready to field questions.
I do want to echo, I think, what most of the people said. I think this is incredible. It's going to be an incredible resource. It's going to be really helpful to help guide our future decisions as a group and recommendations. And it's really well written and it's very digestible. So I really appreciate that. So I wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that you've put into it and acknowledge that as well. It's clear that you've done a lot of work on this.
Thank you.
Are you going to kind of jerk me?
No, I'm going to say I totally agree. And Joe Vukucci's on the board, but is sick today, said the same thing, that he was so impressed and he loved it. But we also have got comments from another member who's sick today, so I forgot to say this.
Okay,
Can I
go,
do this?
yes.
Yeah. Okay, starts with, I thought this plan was well written, clear, and nicely laid out, nicely done. So I was surprised at the psychographics that neither of the predominant lifestyle characteristics included families with children. So this is the Emerald City and in-style pieces. A lot of our parks planning is targeting families with children, but how does this jive with the report statement that the two most predominant types are these other two?
Well, I guess it's a good point. We thought it would be useful to sort of, so those psychographics are proprietary thing that a company called Esri does to sort of sell market
Right.
data to real estate people. We find it to be useful to get sort of a snapshot. I think though, when you're talking about park supervision, you can't divorce that from conversation about kids. So it was more, it's in there more as an acknowledgement that the young adult sort of lifestyles do exist as well. I guess we thought as talking about the kids is a given because we're talking about parks planning.
Okay, I think that's good. Rebecca, if you're watching, tell me if it's not. Is there a plan to add the millages that are on the ballot provided they pass in the budget and funding sources section? So that's going to be, we'll know the answer to that in a week.
As I guess if they pass as available funding.
Yeah, I think adding it, because there was like the budget tables.
Right.
Just adding it as a line item or something?
Well, it impacts the budget quite a bit, I think, so it would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
So we would note that the millages passed and describe what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, she really likes the metrics, and for each park, including the tree canopy and the accessibility rating. All right, and now Joe asks about green infrastructure at the park, like solar panels or charging stations. Thoughts about those?
I asked him if that's what he wants added.
And then maybe
stations,
that's you,
like,
Aaron. Like, I don't know, these apparently didn't bubble up in our, but they
Yeah.
are sort of good ideas.
Well, I can say relatedly, Julie Lyons-Berger and I are working on coming up with getting a consultant to draft a citywide plan for charging stations, and that includes public spaces, including parks. So it will feature in that, but I think the reason it's not in here is because we didn't hear that. Am I right? I mean, that's where.
So, and I guess that leads to my final question, which was, so if there's like something like that, like charging stations, which I hadn't thought of, but seems like a great idea, that, you know, here we're looking at this 100 and whatever page document that you've spent a lot of time putting together. I don't want to like barge in and be like, you have to have charging stations, but if we have ideas like what, like that, what do we do? I mean, I don't feel like we can discuss every idea up here ad nauseum, but is this?
Provide
Public comment.
You have direct contact. I guess how would you guys prefer to get the feedback from that? Through me or directly? I think you have some communication directly, right? During the public comment period.
Okay, so during the public comment period, we can just give our
Yeah.
public comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to give you the QR code.
I will use the QR code. I'm going to say a lot of things about tennis courts.
Good.
Okay,
All right.
I think that's everybody's said all the things.
Again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your transparency, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done. Anything else, guys, before we close out master planning? Okay. Now you are using the QR codes in public comment. Dog park, my favorite topic, John. How did you know?
You suggested it in last month's meeting.
Cool. All right. You guys can leave. You don't want to hear about the dog park, Paul?
Sarah, in the October meeting, you mentioned that you wanted to discuss some of the key topics of the survey, in particular the age requirement.
Yeah. So we asked all these people to fill out the survey, and I think we got a pretty decent response from a survey perspective. I don't know how many members there are of the park at this point. But one of the things is the current age is 40, or is 5. It's not 44. You do not have to be 44 to go to the Mark Twain Dog Park. But it's currently at 5. We clearly hear now that a good chunk of the people want it raised to 10. What are your guys' thoughts? This is a hard thing to police. I don't think anyone's looking for us to like kick people out, but I can tell you actively that members do refer to the rules and say like your kids are too young to be in here. Like I've seen people bring babies in like strapped on themselves and like their feet are hanging out and like it's just, I think what we're trying to prevent is it's a dog park and it is a unique specialized park and we would never want a child to be hurt because it's going to be the dog's fault, right? Like the dog is going to do something even though it's their world. Like that's their little 7 acres of this world. So I would love to get you guys' thoughts on what you think about proposing to raise the age.
I'm fine with it.
So I've got a 9-year-old. So,
No one's asking for passports at the front gate.
he's about to turn 10, so I think
Okay.
he'll be fine. But still, I just want to give the perspective of someone who, as a member of the dog park with kids, like, I know my 9-year-old's going to be fine. He would have been fine as an 8-year-old, and like the dog's part of the family, the kids are part of the family. Like going to the dog park, I think the perspective of like only dogs belong in the dog's park and children don't. No, like I don't know. Like it feels like children can belong there too, and I totally understand that it's a special kind of park, and having a limit to that makes sense. I guess, yeah, I think. Given that it's not even something that we can police, like spending too much time worrying about it is just going to be a problem. But I mean, like I'm open to suggestions. So.
Yeah.
So is it an education problem? Should we be, educating the people on best practices? Should we, I like the idea of being able to also educate the dog owners about what's permissible and not permissible in the park.
Right.
People have said, they walk in and just let the dog run and they go, they'll go sit in the
Yeah.
car, or they'll sit there on their phone the whole time rather than interacting with the dog.
Yeah.
So,
I think maybe where my head is at, and I have not had a chance to put it together, Ferndale requires all of their members to attend a dog park safety webinar that's put on by K9 to 5 that's free before they can gain access to their park. And I haven't got the specifics around it, and I'm not sure how we would do it. There's no charge to anybody. I think that might be something that we want to explore because it's a 1-hour thing. You get a list at the end of it that says here are all these people that were attended, and then you can release their fobs to them. I have seen a lot of really poor behaviors. It talks about how to interact from dog owner to dog owner, how you understand if your dog is ready to be at the dog park, because not all dogs should be at the dog park, just like not all humans should be at the dog park. So I do think that might be a good first step before we make any decisions around these things. We've already got the drainage thing addressed in the master plan. I would rather see us kind of lean towards that education piece and working, and I will try to have something for the December meeting to bring to the group for how that works with Liz and Ferndale so that we can be more educated before we make any decisions.
Who just brought this? Did you just tell me this like a month? Someone in the last month has brought this to us. Yes?
The training?
Yeah, the training idea.
was Sarah.
That was Sarah at the last meeting.
Yeah, and I had to get a job.
I was thinking it
so
was such a good idea. Someone else already told me about it.
yeah, I had to focus on getting a job, so I didn't have time to put this together.
So I mean, I think it seems really reasonable to me. It's a 1-hour online course.
Yeah, it's like a Zoom call. She goes through some slides. She provides it free, I think, because at the end she says, "Here, bring your dog to daycare here." So I mean, it's an opportunity for her to promote her daycare as well. So,
What do you do if people can't?
what?
Like, is it at a certain time, like a live webinar?
Yeah,
Like,
and maybe we can get a recording and we can do something. Let me talk to her. I don't know the specifics. Like, she gave me an email a long time ago just saying, yes, I do this for Ferndale. That was as far as I've gotten. I'd like to go a little deeper to make sure I understand how it works so that we're not, batching people, and I don't want to increase it to the point where she can't handle it. So I don't, I don't know the current number of dog park members, and I don't know how many on average we're getting each month. So I don't have those numbers.
So I've attended the K9 to 5,
Yeah.
and based upon, the profile that they gave us on who's a good participant in a dog park, I don't go because I know my dog would not do well there. So I just, I looked into it, said, no, not right for this particular dog, so.
It's effective.
But it's great because she really does emphasize, is your dog ready to go to a dog park? But then, she flips it and says, are you ready to go to a dog park?
I was gonna say, does she talk about kids? Like,
Well, I think that's what we could ask and say, like, talk about how your kids behave, and maybe it's not the age, it's the behaviors that they display. Like, when they're running around and the dogs are chasing them, like, that's something that we shouldn't be doing, because that could provoke a dog.
There's something about the age. I'm not saying there's nothing about
No,
the
I know,
age.
but I'm just saying, like, those are the types of things, like,
Yeah.
adults run in this dog park, and I've gotten lots of texts around that. So, like, again, what behaviors are you doing that could potentially provoke a dog to do something? I think that's what we're all ultimately trying to prevent, right? Humans and dogs commingling and no one getting hurt.
Right. So is this something like we would make a motion to recommend to the city commission that they consider adding this as a requirement?
I think I want to understand what it would look like first.
Okay, so you'll bring it back to us.
I will bring it in
All right.
December. We don't need to talk about the survey, John. I will send you something that we can send out to the.
I mean, I would say we almost follow the rubric of getting a driver's license. You sit down at a computer before you take your driver's test. What's the speed limit here? 45. Okay, green light, meaning you pass the
Right.
question, right?
Because I know.
But then at the end of the day, if you lay it out in that sort of format, and it's like someone doesn't pass, right? Now are you refusing access to the park, and then that becomes another issue. I guess the other issue would be if you don't have any sort of like score requirement, and that they're just required to take the test, and then, or not the test, but take the course, and then they get a certificate of completion, and then they still are
It's better than nothing, though.
a bad,
I don't think we're preventing it, because
Bad
it's
dog
going to happen, right?
parent.
People are going to go, yep, I attended the webinar, my dog's ready, and they're going to
Yeah.
come anyways.
Right.
But I think we can say we've educated people, and at least we've taken some additional steps of just having us download as part of the application that, yep, I read the rules. You know what I'm
We
saying?
got Michael
Oh,
out
yeah.
of the dog park.
Right.
Right, so I think the action will be, I will try to get some information from Liz. I will get
Yeah.
it to you ahead of time, John, so we can add it.
And I know in October's meeting, you want to talk about age. I think if no matter what age you set it
I know.
at, you're still gonna get
I know.
Bring babies, right? So,
people
like,
bringing in
Yeah,
the
I agree.
younger kids.
I waver on this all the time. Like, I usually just leave when the small children come, so I don't have to address it. All right, just avoid it. Let's move on to Hudson Park. I think he's next. I don't know. I have to look at my front of my page here.
Yeah, you are correct.
Hudson Park concept designs are next. These were notably added on November 1st. I don't know why we need that, but okay.
Yes. So.
John, you want to walk us through the two different designs?
Yep. So Hudson Park is going to be the CDBG park that will be redesigned and constructed in the springtime of 2023. Presented in the packet are options A and B. Staff prefers option A for a variety. Well, really, there's only really one main reason why.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a heavier reason, but the soccer field is oriented north and south versus east and west. So typically when orienting athletic fields, you try to go away from the sun.
Yeah.
Whereas option B orients the soccer field how it currently, essentially is how the park is currently oriented and laid out. One of the items you see here at Hudson Park is a walking path around the park. It's not a big park, but it
What's
is.
the distance on the path?
It's 118, so it takes you 18 laps to run a mile.
Wow.
Okay.
But nonetheless, paths, benches are something that we've seen or heard in our Parks and Rec Master Plan, Aging in Place Task Force. So if we have an area to put some walking paths, and these walking paths can serve as an area of activity for those who are watching their child play soccer in this park. The other area of question is when we presented the 4 or 5 parks that were coming up for CDBG, which was Lawson, Franklin, Lockman, Orden, and Hudson. You know, we had asked people, or we have asked you guys, would you rather see a full-size basketball court or the half-size basketball court that is currently there? These plans show a full-size basketball court. And I think having a full-size basketball court would be beneficial than having half-size, and we would have the funds to put a full-size court in now instead of going half and then coming back and adding the other half. And this would be that Versa court surface.
Fancy court.
Like Lawson has or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Where's this privacy screen fence going?
So that is something that if we wanted to put a porta-john out there, we could screen
I
it.
think you should put a writing commissioner in front of Commissioner Colo's house. He won't mind.
But you can see it in the pictures. The concept for the play structure would be a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12. Nature themed, similar to what is in the picture there, and with handicap swings and amenities. Shade sails with seating area. I have some reservations with a shade sail, but there would be some sort of shade structure there.
What are your reservations?
We have some shade sails over at Normandy Oaks over the splash pad, and the turnbuckles tend to either come loose or break during a moderate wind. So it can become a hazard, especially if someone's sitting underneath it and the turnbuckles decide to come off. But nonetheless, there would be a shade option there.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
So does this park back up to, does this park back up to houses on 3 sides?
The eastern side are houses. I think they're apartments, but they're residential.
It's all residential.
Northern side is residential. The south side is residential, and then the west side, there's some residential, but there's also some commercial too, depending on how far you get away from it.
And is there parking in front of the,
No,
No.
so it's all street parking?
correct.
And there's hardly any of that.
Now, would there be a plan to use the soccer field would that be mixed into the available soccer pitches for the various leagues?
So the soccer field is currently used right now for the football club. It's a smaller soccer field, so it's probably about an 8U field. And parking is always an issue. We're in a lot of our parks, but
Is this a game field?
it's more of a practice field.
Yeah, I
Do
think
they
it's a
complain
practice
about
field.
this one being muddy?
No, this area is a heavy sand base area, so it drains well.
Because I was gonna ask, what's the purpose of the berm? Just for like a hill? Because I was like, you could put that material in the field if it's like muddy, but that's not a problem and it doesn't really matter.
I think the berm is more of aesthetic appeal.
Change the
Like
topography.
separate it
Yeah.
from the road maybe, because it's
Yeah.
kind of close to
What?
the road.
I'm just muttering. Don't mind me.
So you need us to make a recommendation,
Well,
A or B?
I have some questions.
I know, I'm just making sure I understand the assignment.
Well, we just would want clarification on a couple items, which one you guys would prefer. And then if you guys would like to see the half court remain or extend it to a full court.
And that was the basketball part, right?
Correct.
Not the soccer?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Can we talk about adding like some of the things that we talk or have, like the sustainability, like native plantings and stuff like that? Like, should we call that out specifically in this type of thing, or?
So we would add
Put in a
plantings.
road
We could add native plantings when we go through and, regrade and restore the site after the construction process. It's typically not shown because the big ticket items are, the soccer field, basketball court, play structure. But yeah,
Okay.
we would put in native plantings in this part.
So with the walkways that are currently presented here, does it make it ADA compliant at a level 5?
That's what I was wondering.
That would be a question for. I don't know if
Probably
you
need
guys-
to add a,
No, you'd have to
See
add
it.
something to get
Go
to
to
the
the
soccer
field.
field.
The other component to this trail outside of it being a walking path is that it does lead into the park so that there's less grass terrain to traverse through. Wheelchair, you can go on the concrete, asphalt, whatever type of hard surface that is, and get to the soccer field.
I mean, the size of this park is such that probably you can watch soccer from that sidewalk.
Yeah, where it's currently laid out, you can, but this just does make it a little bit easier.
Okay. Thanks, John.
or you could make like a pull-off area where you could watch it
Yeah.
from there instead of like sitting in the actual path.
You can make like an ADA parking, like a picnic table. Not parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parking
lot, jeez. I mean, I'm concerned about parking. Like if this becomes
Yeah.
a nice field and it's a game field and it's got a full-size basketball court, there's literally no parking on that street. I mean, there's street parking, but the people park their cars there. So, and there's only on one side, I think.
Well, and Hudson's a dead end, right?
It's a dead end, so you can't, there's nowhere, I mean, it's extremely limited parking.
Are the people in this neighborhood prepared for a nice field to be there and understand what that means?
Commissioner Colo is. I also have a concern about the shade sales. It was sort of similar to what you said, John, is that it feels like those start looking pretty bad and not working well very fast. And you know, my favorite kind of shade sale is a tree. So I'm wondering, like, should we plant some more trees and just put up, can we get some of the picnic tables that have, like, start out with umbrellas and have that be our temporary shade until we get some trees growing in there? I mean, that's just my thought. Like, this shade sail that is pictured looks enormous, and I can't imagine that being the same ones we're going to use here, but I don't know. I've had some long-time shade sail skepticism. And also, I'm trying to think about this porta-john. Like, I like the screening idea. I think it's smart to start incorporating that as if we're going to be planning these, but isn't this going to be right next to someone's house?
There's not a porta-john here,
It says proposed porta-john screen.
but if we did decide to put a porta-john here, because I know soccer does
Soccer would.
add porta-johns to their fields, this is a screen that we could purchase to designate the area for the porta-john.
Okay. Okay. The other thing I wondered about is like, so is this like a picnic area in that back corner?
The back corner currently has grills and picnic tables.
Oh, okay, so it is a
which,
picnic area.
I don't know how it has lasted that long, considering there's a whole bunch of trees covering it, and my understanding of the fire ordinance is that we have our grills on concrete by our pavilions because of any sort of fire hazard with having grills, ground mounted into grass and, low hanging.
But so these are going to be picnic tables, or your son?
They're gonna be benches and picnic tables, but we're gonna remove the grills.
No, take the girls out. I gotcha. So I think it's lovely. My overall concern is it's too much for the street. Like people can't.
Well,
That's my
it's-
concern. Is the parking
Yeah.
issue.
I mean, we're essentially replacing one for one. So we're doing the soccer field. We're just orienting it differently.
But it's not. It will be a game field, and it's not right now.
We're improving the old structure. We're like the
Just saying,
we
you
were
heard
asking
it
you
here
guys.
first. If we're gonna have people, we're gonna have a parade of people come and say.
The area we're asking for you guys is: do we keep the half court, or do we go ahead and put in a full size court?
If we're spending $500,000 on this park, I want a full-size court, but given what I'm saying about parking, I want a half-size court.
But there's really nothing that we're adding to this park outside of the full size and the trails that is not currently at this park.
Could Hudson Street be parallel parking, or not parallel, perpendicular parking?
No, it's really
Or is it
narrow.
not wide enough?
It's really narrow.
It's a narrow street. If we went the route where parking, we'd probably have to encroach into the park a little bit. But there may be some space to offset kind of everything towards the back.
I think it looks great, and I agree, of course, the north-south seems like the right, I don't even understand why we would, like, I don't understand the good part about having it the other way, just because we wouldn't have.
Well, I think it was that way because that's just what the land was, that was given, because the basketball court is further south currently, so you can't really go north and south, but with this reorient,
You can do it.
now you can do it.
So I will say on option B, it looks like you can see the topography lines here. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that impact the way that the soccer field and the basketball court should be? Is the soccer field going to be crowned or not?
Probably it would be reseeded, and I'm sure there'll be some slope to it. Because the whole park would be a construction zone. They'd regrade it, restore it. There'd probably be a slope
They're doing
to
that.
it.
Might as well give it a little bit of crown, right?
Yeah, there'll be a slope.
Well, I like option A.
Yeah.
So we need a motion, or we need a motion to just tell you?
I could take a motion. That'll be
Okay. Who wants to make a motion? And we need a motion that's either, let's do two motions because I don't think I have the capacity to process them together. So A or B. We'll start with that. Who has a motion for which?
I motion we approve option A.
Recommend.
Recommend.
Okay.
Second?
So there's a motion on the table to recommend option A from Sam. Second by Melanie. Any discussion, questions on the motion on the table? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. So first recommendation is A. Now let's talk about half or full basketball
Oh,
court.
yeah.
I just couldn't put them in together. Sorry, John.
that's fine.
I vote for a full basketball court.
Second it.
Okay. There's a motion on the table for a full basketball court from Sam. It's been seconded by Vince. Any discussion on the full basketball court motion? All right. All in favor of recommending a full basketball court, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. And we also recommend a full basketball court.
Okay.
And when we see Hudson Park residents, we'll have another discussion.
Directing to Commissioner Fuller.
Yep. Start prepping him now. There's going to be floods of people in his neighborhood. All right, senior center report. John?
Use the bathroom, just hop across to Commissioner Fuller's house.
That's what you should say. We don't need a porta potty, John.
No porta potty
Brandon Cole will allow people to use his
Public
area,
restroom at Fuller's house.
his home, freely.
Okay, well, for the senior center, they are doing a Veterans Day lunch on Veterans Day. So for all those veterans, thanks for the service, and they'd like to thank those veterans by offering them a free meal. The meal will consist of cold lentil balls, romaine salad, roasted pepper soup, and a dessert. So please register to attend this luncheon if you're a veteran, and they do offer the dine-in or carry-out. As far as the senior center goes, where everything's pretty much going smoothly, there's one part-timer that is retiring, so we'll be looking for a new part-time position for that. but she'll be sticking around until March, so we'll have some time to train the incoming part-timer on the ins and outs of the senior center.
What's the position?
In addition, I'll just give an update on the Royal Oak Aging in Place Task Force. Public comment is closed. We're meeting on Monday to finalize our report and are planning to present to City Commission on the December 12th meeting. So that for final approval to be submitted. We did submit it to the AARP as a draft and got feedback that they thought it was probably one of the best written and well planned, well thought out plans that they've seen. So we're moving forward with that. I haven't looked through the public comments yet, but I don't think there's anything too dramatic to take into account. So you'll see me on December 12th.
All right.
Presenting
Right
our
here.
plan. So be nice. Staff report. Is Aaron gonna chime in tonight? Better be on that mic, young man.
Tell us about the grassy
Is
fields.
this thing on? Okay. Yeah, so I'll let John do the bulk of it, but there's a few items that I did want to speak to. As you know, at the last city commission meeting, they approved some pretty fancy, pretty durable refuse cans
Oh, Lord. Oh, the refuse cans.
for the
I forgot.
parks, and so
I
those will
forgot
be
to put
showing
that
up. We'll
on.
get rid of the blue barrels that are so unsightly at the roadsides and have more cans interior, so there's some improvement
It's
there.
gonna be the nicest cans you've ever seen.
Will they be out there all year or just from like spring to fall?
Yeah, these we'll leave out there,
Are the parks, are they going to all parks?
yes.
Oh, don't worry, we have 20 extra.
Yes,
I have
We
so many
can
thoughts.
storm at Waterworks.
yes.
We need one for dead animals.
Now we're talking, no.
We need one for the dead animals at Mark Twain.
All right, duly noted. And then tree planting is occurring right now, so we are stocking up the parks. I couldn't tell you precisely where, except to say that Normandy Oaks got a bunch for along Normandy and then along the pathway that leads in, so eventually that'll be all canopied. And other locations got them as well. But that's a good thing. And then we're also working with a nonprofit foundation that wants to give us a chunk of money to plant 100 trees. It's actually I don't know if I should name them because we're talking with them still, but.
Don't name them.
In any case, okay, so I won't, but the idea is to take about 100 trees and plant them in one location to make some sort of an impact and have it be kind of like something of an arboretum type of thing. So we've got an idea to add on to that. If you can imagine the Tenhaven Woods to the west of that, between that and some of the fields, there's some big open space there. That might be a good candidate location for that, but it would include benches and maybe like a aggregate kind of walking path through it, so.
On Quickstead?
Is there any way to see
Yeah.
where the trees are being planted?
For the for
Yeah,
the parks?
the ones that are being done right now.
Yeah, we don't have yeah, we do have a map, don't know. We do we have a map that staff was using to assist with the planting.
Yeah, on 4th Street, they cut down some dead trees and the stumps are there and no trees. And I thought that'd be a great time to put those trees back in.
Yeah, if they're stumps, we gotta grind them out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's some ones that we took down, there are trees.
Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago.
Was it? Okay. Where was it at? On 4th?
On 4th Street, the parking lot right across from Grant Park.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. There might be stakes there. John, I don't know. He was not familiar with it. But duly noted.
Where's the income map? What page is the income map on?
I found it,
Pop
103.
quiz. That's all I have.
So Aaron, as you're thinking about when we get these 100 trees,
Yes.
can we make sure we're looking at this map on page 103?
Yeah, and the biggest concern with that is they don't want to give us 100 trees that we place wherever. They want
No,
100
no,
trees
I
in
meant,
this
but
space.
like as we select areas,
He wants to put it right here.
But then we're narrowed down by where we can put 100 trees, which is.
it's already green.
that
I
doesn't
know, it's
have-
pretty great.
It's like the biggest green spot we have.
So he wants to put them there, and it sounds like he wants to put them on the soccer field.
No, there's a big space between, there's like a berm, it's kind of raised up and it's,
That flat area next to the senior center, all like high school kids that like do that biking.
Oh, the cross
And the
country?
cross country,
kids.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
Okay. I'm just saying that we have this beautiful fancy
direction.
map.
I'll
Yeah, so
reference
he
that.
looked at the
Thank you,
fancy
sir.
map, he picked this area.
You pick the green area. Okay, cool.
The things that I had, you done?
Yeah.
The things that I was going to talk about are on the upcoming events. So we're kind of doing some new things here. We're going to be starting a billiards league at the senior center on Wednesday nights. So it's kind of a new concept. It's cash awards. So teams of 2 and come out, have a good time. 8-week league. See how it runs and see how it goes. Hopefully it is popular. We'll keep it going.
Is that something that anybody can participate in?
Yep. There is a registration fee.
Is there a waiver?
Billiards is a dangerous sport, so there will be.
I was like gonna be snotty and say, is there a waiver, but.
There will be a waiver. And then the other exciting event, it's a first, is our Toys for Tots cornhole tournament. So we're working with Toys for Tots. The idea behind it is the team has to bring in a toy, $40 value, and that serves as their entry into the tournament. If they do not bring a toy, they have to pay $40, and then we'll take that $40 and purchase a toy, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the tournament, all the toys collected go to the Toys for Tots, and that's going to be December 10th at the Saltler Center, and we'll do bagels and coffee and whatnot, but
Can they bring multiple toys that add up to $40?
we'll bring multiple toys,
Okay.
yeah. But the concept behind it is bring a toy that gets you into the tournament, or bring toys that gets you into the tournament, and then you'll minimum of 3 games, and then it'll be a good time.
Who wants to tell me about how we're reseeding the soccer fields for the spring, specifically Normandy Oaks?
How we're reseeding it?
Yes.
Seymour Green, I told them to come out after the season, so probably around November 15th time frame to come out and reseed the soccer fields.
Okay.
And then for those of you who may have driven by Grant Park, there is a tarp on it. It's a turf growth tarp, so it's permeable, and it is meant to make the seed kind of like a greenhouse effect, germinate and grow.
Are we doing that in Normandy or no?
Probably not.
Okay. And is there anywhere else that we're doing this? Like Normandy's the big. Normandy's the big
one. I've heard about these turf tarps, and I want to see how it works.
Okay, no, I'm not saying is there anywhere else we're doing turf tarps. I'm saying is there anywhere else we're focused on reseeding? Some of the fields are in pretty rough shape after the season.
Yeah, right now we're looking at Grant Park and then just Normandy.
Okay.
Do they do like a special seed that germinates solely?
Not necessarily. Kind of what this turf tarp does is it's almost as if you were to seed your grass, you put some sort of straw on top of it, and it kind of prevents it from washing away, or any sort of the animals to kind of pick at it, birds and everything pick at it. So it's kind of a similar concept, but it's a permeable tarp, so it kind of creates that greenhouse effect, whereas a straw or hay is more open, so it doesn't have that.
Just asking about Normandy.
Yeah, it's just outside.
Oh,
of
it's
the, like,
it's
seating
this
window that you're
it's a.
supposed to follow.
I'm sorry.
Per MDOT specifications.
No, it's
Sorry, I'm a
it's
civil.
the type of turf seed that we used when we constructed the site, so we're just
great.
adding it back into it.
I guess I'm asking, is it gonna work if we're planting it November 15th?
Yes, because when you plant the grass, the winter time will kind of help it germinate for the springtime.
So I will say, when I put addition on my house, they put the grass seed down like this doesn't really need to be recorded, but they put the grass seed down like the end of October because that's when they were done with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is never gonna. But it did. Magically, it did. So
Yeah, snow does serve as a pretty good
insulator.
Insulator and growth improver.
Michael pointed out we aren't getting as much snow as we have been previously.
Yeah, right. Can't have the ice rink. At least we can have grass.
All right.
That's all I have.
Anything not on the agenda that we haven't covered at this point?
Dear
sorry.
God, no.
I'm so tired to think about it.
Right. Agreed. Vince, you got anything?
Good.
Sam? Michael?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Macy?
Nope.
All right. We've already, I think, covered the upcoming events.
We did.
You did.
All right, next meeting, December 1st. We are going back to the senior center. Right, John? Okay.
We'll be at the senior center.
All right. With that, I would like to move, I can't
I move.
I can't do
move
anything.
adjourn.
Second.
All right, there's a motion on the table to adjourn. All in favor, any questions or discussion about the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, the meeting has finally come to conclusion. Thank you again, everyone.